Hello, everybody. We are lagging, looks like, to start. Oh, well. All right, well, welcome to my dining room, everyone. As we always join here on Friday nights, I am Matthew, aka Dark Sheep. Tonight I have prepared a little bit of some thoughts into some slides and good stuff like that. So we'll wait a minute here to see if a few people show up before we start that. Kick that off, and then we'll draft afterwards. Got my tea. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing well. Yeah. We'll wait a few minutes. See if anybody says anything. If anybody can hear me. If not, I'll just get going, and my goal is hopefully to record this first part of it and release it later as a separate video. We'll see. Oh. Well, I'm sure we've all drafted some terrible teams. But yes, this is a support group for people that are drafting baseball on the 3rd of February. We're all just as sick as each other. Yes, you're in the right place. I don't know why my camera is lagging. It started out fine last time, and this time it's not. I don't know. All right. So I'm going to flip over to this, and we will get this little first part done, and then we'll draft. So, welcome everybody to my dining room. I'm Matthew, aka Dark Sheep, and today I am going to be telling you why your players suck. Well, not really, but kind of. So, what is the point? Why did I go through this effort of building this? So, it's really easy to like have conversations, be online saying, hey, I like this player, I like this player, I don't like this player, and you can give reasons and blah blah blah, and everybody kind of has a different way of looking at players, has a different way of picking their targets and such. So sometimes it's good to take a step back and look at what you're thinking about players and why you're thinking that. And I was sitting in some training at work the other day, and I started thinking, like, how can we make like some sort of common framework for evaluating players? And I think a lot of people do this, and they do a very similar thing, but they don't think about it quite as in depth. So, what is the super secret magic formula that we can write to try and define a player? We probably don't really need to do it for Mookie here, but I just wanted to throw a picture of Mookie because he's always got an awesome smile. All right, so this is what I wrote down, and I had been thinking about it, and it comes down to 3 different variables: CSV, cost, skill, and volume. So we're going to dive into each one of these, but basically this is what I do, and without really thinking about it, how I want to define a player and then compare them to other players eventually. That's not really part of this, but this maybe we'll talk about that in another night. So we're going to talk about each of these things: cost, skill, and volume. Start with cost. So what is cost? The cost of the player. The main cost, everyone knows, is their ADP, or a lot of times people call it draft capital, whatever you want to talk about it. It's basically the cost of picking that player where they are currently being drafted. So You'll get values sometimes. People drop, people jump. Maybe you'll jump a guy. That's sort of the main component of cost. Is it an early pick? If it is an early pick, what is the opportunity cost what are the other players that you're giving up in that area? The other cost is that you're using up a roster spot. So in MLB best ball, right? It's best ball. We're playing this because we don't want to manage teams, or maybe we do, but we also want to draft more and not have a ton of teams to manage. So the cost of drafting any player is that it's going to take up a roster spot. You can't add, you can't drop. So that's sort of obvious, right? And then the other portion of the cost is that within those 20 roster spots, you have to fill your weekly position requirements. So obviously, the cost of taking more and more of a certain player or type or a position, I should say, is going to go up because you are taking spots that on your roster that could be scored for other positions. So those are the three components of cost when we're thinking about a player. All right. So volume. Here's my little Spinal Tap joke. We want players that go up to 11. So if we look at the scoring system of Underdog, right? So hitters, singles, doubles, triples, blah, blah, blah. All of these things are important. All of these things are going to happen the more that your player plays. So the volume here is basically the amount of at-bats or innings pitched. And this goes a long way to how your player is going to score for the year and the season. This even goes into like a more granular effect. Even when you look at the shorter scoring periods of the playoffs, you want to get a player that's going to play as many games as possible in those week-long scoring things. It's not just the amount of at-bats, but you want them in each game. And then pitcher, the same thing. When you take a look at the top scoring pitchers each year, it's always not all. It's a huge chunk of them is guys that pitched a lot of innings. So that's where you want the volume. You want lots of innings, and you also want volume when it comes to wins and quality starts. So how many innings per game is that player going to pitch? You got to pitch a minimum of 5 to get a win or 6 to get a quality start. And to get those, it's not just the amount of games you start, but also the innings you are allowed to pitch in those games. And obviously, earned runs kind of, that's a weird one because the more innings somebody pitches, they're going to give up more earned runs. But with all the other things that depend on volume, I think that kind of evens out in the wash. But then, not all playing time is created equally. So if you take a look at a player, let's say, let's compare Byron Buxton and Fernando Tatis Jr. in this case, right? So the IL time, or the time that Tatis is going to miss, we know up front, we have an idea he's going to miss so many days. So that goes into what we think of him and his volume. But we also know a guy like Byron Buxton is probably going to spend some time on the IL. We don't know when it's going to happen. So we can't really plan around it as well as like drafting Tatis. And like I said before, I guess I've already mentioned this already, but it's also important for how many games per week a player will usually play. So like a catcher, we want to target catchers that have DH potential, because when we're scoring for a week-long period and we miss a game because of a regular catcher rest day, then that player is just going to, even if they're going to score a lot of points throughout the season, they're going to score less per week unless they have that ability to get DH time. So the last variable that we have, skill, right? So this is where we start getting into all of our acronyms, K minus BB for pitchers, blah, blah, blah. BABIP, XFIP, hitters, we want to think about discipline, ISO, WOBA, hard hits, all that kind of stuff. But let's stop for a second here, because guess what? Projections already tell us this. We don't have to be skill evaluators. In fact, there's people that do this as a job, statisticians that are going to do this a lot better than you and I are going to do. So I grabbed this little comic. So we're bad at skill evaluation. We're going to take the soft sciences and try to apply them to players, and we don't know what we're doing. Like, we can't quantify things that can't be quantified. But if you're trying to judge a person's skill based on soft sciences and stuff, you're gonna think you know what you're doing, and you're gonna mess yourself up. You got to know what you don't know. So when it comes to projections, right? What is a projection? A projection already takes two of these variables that we were talking about, skill and volume, and puts them together into a number, right? So we get an output from a projection system for a player that is based on what that system thinks is the skill, and then what maybe they do their own volume projections, or maybe they get it from somewhere else. But it basically, a projection is taking those two things, that cost, skill, volume, and it's taking two of those and doing the work for us. But right, so when we have the outputs, it kind of goes back to, so we circle back to wanting to understand the input. So if you are going to rely on a projection system, you want to know the why and the how also. You don't need to be the perfect statistician. You don't need to know every what's the stickiness of barrel rate, blah, blah, blah. But you want to have a general idea of what you're using and what goes into it. So that's, as I said before, the volume is the one thing that I think, whereas the skill and applying soft sciences and applying, what we think about players from our own eye tests, we're going to mess up the skill more often than the projection system is. But the volume is where we can take an advantage, right? We can think, or we can have ideas, we can read articles, and maybe the system you're using doesn't update the volume for every news article that comes out, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where we can then put our thumb on the scale or pull back on a guy. So there's a question then, but what about, so when we're doing the season-long projections, looking at them for MLB, right? There's this unknown of off-season adjustments. Like you'll see maybe this guy's at drive line increasing his speed, but the projection systems don't know that. So there's maybe a little bit of leeway on that. But I would argue that pretty much every player is making off-season adjustments. At least they should be, right? So even if we don't see it, someone might be working on another pitch. So it's not like if you see Lars Nootbaar in his underwear swinging max EV hits of 300 miles per hour at Codify or wherever he's at, everybody else is doing stuff too. So just taking that one input and saying, oh, well, I know better than this projection system, can lead to a lot of problems, in my opinion. Right? So this is where we get back to why I hate your favorite players. If you spend time talking with me about MLB and how I look at Underdog, you'll hear me give a lot of opinions about players. And a lot of times, I'll be pretty negative to a guy that you might like. So usually it comes down to one of these areas, right? So when we're taking this equation, this cost, skill, volume equation, there's usually one of these things, and either I like more or like less about it. So maybe I don't like the cost of someone for the skill or the volume that I think they're going to get. Or maybe your skill evaluation system, whatever you're using, if it's projections or your own thoughts or whatever, maybe we'll disagree on that. So it's not like when we're having these conversations, we should get tied into arguing and whatever. But the best thing to do is kind of like talk through the reasons and talk through which one of these things. Oh yeah, I forgot I added this. Here's some of the players that these kind of conversations come up about. Dustin May, how much volume is he going to get this year? We have a general idea what his skill is. Does the cost then meet the volume? Same thing with Michael Harris. He's got a huge cost, and we saw a ton of skill. We saw a ton of strikeouts. We know his volume, but this cost is really high for what some projection systems are saying his, true skill is. So the other guys I got here are some of the young Baltimore guys that are probably going to be pretty fun to watch this year. But, when it comes to like Grayson Rodriguez, we've already heard that his innings are going to be managed in season, in start. We want to love this guy, and there's no reason you can't, be excited about these players. But sometimes you have to think through this equation and try and come up with, is this the right guy at the cost? Like, we know the skill is probably high, but in the same time, like him and Gunnar Henderson, right? So if you think about these guys, and a lot of times this is a lot of times why I dislike prospects and rookies, right when they're breaking into the league, is because when you take a look at this equation, right, the cost, the skill, the volume, the cost, right? You know that. You don't know the other two things. You think you know the skill based on how they played in AAA, their scouting reports, the grades on Fangraphs, whatever you're using. You think but there's you don't know, because there's so much range of outcomes. And I think I added this. Yeah. What about the upside? So these guys have upside, right? And that's kind of a weird thing to define, but really when we talk in the range of outcomes, these guys, we don't know their skill, their true skill. We have an idea, we can guess, but we haven't seen them in the major leagues. And how many times Jared Kelenic, for instance, these guys come with this huge pedigree and they can't really break in right away. Or even Vlad, it took him a year and the help of some really nice ballparks to really hit this really huge home run total that everybody had hoped for to begin with. So for every Fernando Tatis Jr. that you have that comes into the league, you have 3 Jared Kelenics. So the skill you don't actually know. You can guess, you think, but you don't. And that leads to then volume, right? So the volume range on a rookie or a prospect is going to be huge. Like, it's most likely going to be low, because teams, number one, they're managing service time. It depends on the team context, like how much is this person going to play? And then if they struggle, are they going to go back down to AAA? So generally, when it comes to these young rookies and prospects, that's why I'm usually way further off them than, I think their cost is generally too high compared to the likelihood of the skill and the volume part of the equation. So that's kind of a lot of stuff. Thank you for watching. we'll get to a draft now. I know that's what everybody came for. Win fast drafts. But yeah, so if you have any questions about that, this was just sort of some thoughts that I had. I started putting together this slide deck. So yeah, thanks for watching that. And we can get into a draft. And, if we want to, if anybody has any questions or anything like that about it, feel free to throw it. I'll leave that open if we want to jump back to it. Otherwise, we will get in here and draft. We're going to draft a dinger tonight. Somebody is going to win 100,000 from this draft. I know it. I can feel it. All right. Yeah, Eric, you can't be wrong if you take everybody at the same rate, right? You have to win that way. Ooh, you're filled. Thank you, Ransad. Yeah, there's definitely last week I had some of my friends from there we go. Some of my friends from the Badge Brothers, and I know they're going to be doing some plenty of MLB stuff once NFL winds down. So definitely check that out. Some of the Roto guys are getting into it. Hopefully we'll get some of them on, like Vlad and John Legeza, some other people that I've seen. Let's see. We got. Sorry you missed it. It was pretty full, I guess, because we just started. Yeah, hopefully what I said made some sort of sense, or I don't know, maybe it was just really obvious stuff, but it was just some things I was thinking about and trying to, really codify how I thought about a player and put into this like simple equation. So we have done 3 of these live streams, right? Yeah, we've done 3 of them. And each time we've gone just strictly. Yeah, Rob and James are talking it on RotoWire. I did actually, maybe get Rob on here. I don't know. We'll see. I did reach out. I know he was talking about it on Twitter, and he's shown some drafts. So we are drafting for the 4th time. Yeah. So what I was saying was the first 3 times we did this without rankings. So I just kind of wanted to attack the draft from perspective of, we're just going to do it. We're going to take Mookie. He was in our presentation. I love Mookie. So we're just going to take him. As you can see, I have the Spike Week draft tool up now, which is a kind of a tool that you can subscribe to and use. I'm still getting used to it, but it does some things like it shows you can set the exposure rate of certain players. As you can see, I've been taking Mike Trout quite a bit. Hey, you know what? Let's make this a little bigger. For all my blind friends. Oh, maybe that's too big. All right, yeah, so we are using the draft tool. The first few drafts that we did together, I wanted to attack as if it was somebody new to the format, somebody new to Underdog, not using tools, just going off straight ADP. And that's the other thing we are doing tonight is I am using Brendan Tuma's rankings. So this, I kind of thought that we had him on a few episodes ago, and I thought it would be if we were drafting as if we were new to the format. Let me drop this link in the chat. This is the rankings I am using tonight. Paul's in the 12 spot. Welcome. So yeah, this link that I threw up in the chat is the rankings that I'm using tonight from our guest from a few weeks ago. And, I think I'm going to... We're on the clock. I'm actually going to, just to stick with the theme here of being like the second step of someone coming into the format. Got Mookie. Oh boy. We're going to take Pete here. Yeah, our goal is to like act like this is like the next step for someone after they did their first few drafts based off ADP. Maybe they go searching out for some projections, or they make their own rankings or whatever. So we're going to do a little bit different. We're not going to draft off. We're not going to just draft off ADP. We're going to use Brendan's rankings, which you can download at that link. Which I think he's a pretty smart guy, and if you want to like take that next step, you can start there, and start drafting based off of someone's rankings, and from that, the next step is maybe getting some projections and then putting together your own rankings too, which I plan on doing. I have not got around to. I was making that beautiful slideshow first. All right. So what do we got going on in this draft? We got a pretty classic start. We have our first 8 outfielders go off the board as normal. Vlad, Jose, Trey. Yeah, this is a pretty normal start so far. We have our first 3 pitchers that usually go in the first 2 rounds. James got his first draft in and also went Mookie Pete. Yeah, so that's actually something I know we can talk about at some point, maybe not tonight, but starting to draft in trying to get different combinations in this beginning, as we really get sort of a lot more people drafting and getting more people drafting the same things. As this top ADP kind of solidifies. Let's see, we got Corbin. Oh, did I cut off the Cole person? I was trying to get it all on the screen, but we'll do this. Chester Copperpot is going a double pitcher start with their anchor outfielder. We have, let's see, we are going to grab, I want to grab an outfielder and a pitcher here. So I'm going to take George Springer and take whatever pitcher kind of comes back to us. You'll see Brendan here has some pretty big love for Alex Bregman. His ADP is 49, about 50, and as you can see, he's kind of at the top of a lot of these guys. But this is where you learn a little bit different way of drafting, not just like going based off of ADP alone. I am a fast draft person. I always have some slows going on, but I enjoy the fast draft a lot more. I don't think there's really a huge advantage to either one. some people that like slow drafts like it because they can sort of plan their picks, and I find myself like losing track of what all the different drafts I was trying to do, what kind of strategy I was trying to execute. So that's really why I prefer fast, because it's a lot easier for me to focus on executing a certain strategy or a build type. But I definitely do have some slows going on. Usually just those are good breaks during the day. You get that little notification. But sometimes you can have too many going on and then you go crazy also. Baseball, Chris was on last week and he said because he can't draft in his location, he registered 100 slows. How many slows do you got, Go Blue? How many are you at right now? All right, so our plan is working out here. We got our outfielder, and we are going to take a pitcher here. We're going to take Shane, Justin. I don't have a lot of Verlander. We're going to take some Verlander. Maybe a little small correlation with little Pete Alonso, get him some wins. Member in the Discord, I assume you mean this Deposit Kingdom Best Bros Discord. These dinger drafts are grind AF. What do you think they meant by that? Well, maybe it's kind of, when you start out doing them, right? Especially if you come from really loving baseball or football, maybe you're trying it for the first time. Baseball, you really you hit that kind of wall where, like I said, when we started, we had this set of first two picks, and this ADP is starting to really solidify. So, it's pretty easy to get bored if you're not obsessed with it, like some people in this dining room. I'm the only one here, so it's me. And they are 20 rounds, so a lot of the times you're making the same decisions, you're getting to the same decision points, and maybe you get bored of that. I can definitely see where there's a grind to it. Yeah, about at pick 100. This is an interesting thing. Go Blue is saying that the dinger drafts have gone deeper into the player pools. The fast, sorry. Okay, so you're saying the fast drafts, people go scroll further? I would think that would be the opposite. I would think that people can sit there and plan for 8 hours and just scroll down if they want. It's interesting that you would say that. I wonder if there's I don't know how you could probably go back and look and quantify that, but I guess you'd have to mark it if they were slow or fast. Oh, the players that you like dry up quicker and fast. That's interesting. Okay, yeah, the drafts are harder in the fast. And as someone who does a ton of these, I think there's definitely an edge in that I enjoy them and do a lot of them. And yeah, I know Chip's addicted. All right, we are on the clock. One pick away. We got, oh boy, we are hitting another pitcher pocket in his rankings here. An outfielder pocket. All right, we're going to take I think we're going to take Eloy here, who hopefully he has a great year, because I think right now he's might be my most drafted player in the Dinger. I do wonder my slows. Do I keep drafting the same? Yeah, that's where that spike week tool can come in handy if you want to grind slows. That does keep track of your exposure as you make picks. So it could help with that. But yeah, it's that's it. That kind of go. You're too lazy to check. Is the that's how I kind of feel about slows too. When it comes to, even if I have 8 hours to make a pick, and I still sometimes don't spend the time to look ahead and look at my previous picks. A lot of times they'll be just like, oh, yeah, that's the guy I want. And then like, oh, I already have 2 pitchers from that same team. I don't really want a third one, but I took them. It's the laziness you'd think would go away for the slows, where you have the time to be patient. I find myself being even more impatient. All right, we're coming back up. We kind of have an interesting opportunity here. How many pitchers people taking? One. This isn't really a pitcher hungry draft. So I'm actually going to take another outfielder here. I'm going to take Dalton Varsho to go with our George Springer. And set up a little mini Toronto stack. After I say that, there's probably going to be a run of on pitchers here. I'm going to reserve, kind of remind myself that maybe I want to take a third Toronto guy. So I'm going to put those in my queue. So feel free to snipe them, whatever. All right. Yeah. Yeah, when you're drafting on your phone, that kind of messes it up. My ownership on Eloy, let's see quick. I didn't have a ton of him in the other one, in the way too early, but or the bullpen. He is, I guess he's not 37. Yeah, he's up there with the top. I'm not sure why that is. I'll have to maybe analyze why that is. We'll see, or at least get off him a little bit. Chip says, I wonder what percentage of the 8 hours per pick is actually spent thinking about the pick. Yeah, it's like 0.01 for me. I don't know. It's not the way. All right, yeah, you get some Chris Bryant. That's a good idea. His cost has come up and kind of really leveled out. Terrence, who would you say is your last viable outfielder, infielder, pitcher if you could only choose 5? Do you mean 5 per position, or what? I don't really quite understand that question. Maybe you can rephrase that. Yeah, James here is looking ahead to the playoff rounds. That there's a 5-game week for Eloy, which kind of goes into that volume equation that I'm probably doing a poor job of doing, is looking ahead at those sort of volume questions. All right, we got Tony to take Zach Gallen here from us, I'm sure. We did have a run on pitchers. I think if you only go with 5 at a certain position. Okay, got it. Yeah, I don't know who is balancing playoff weeks really quite properly. All right, I'll take Zach Gallen as our second pitcher. We got our nice outfield core, feeling pretty good. We got our anchor infielder. All right, so let's think about this again. Who would you say is your last final? If you can only choose 5 per position. So I think that this question is interesting because when I draft 5 per position, it's usually that there's maybe we'll even do it on this one. It'll look a lot like this where I spend I spend a lot of early capital, like 3 guys, like in my first 5 picks as an example, and then another guy maybe in the first 7 picks. So I get four outfielders in this case in the first 7 picks. And then a lot of times that last one that I'm adding on is I'm gonna wait till the end. So when it comes to like last viable, it's the same as if I take 8 at a position. The last viable person is I can always take one at the end to add on. There's no real I can't think of any reason why there would be a difference. I don't know. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, we're going to take another pitcher here. The pitching ADP has really shot up since the dinger has opened. There's a lot of people out here listening to the conversations and realizing that pitchers were maybe a little undervalued. So we're going to go for. I don't really have a core of volume guys. I love Hunter Green, and this is where like that equation comes in. The skill is there, but I'm not sure on the volume. If he's going to have an innings restriction this year. And we jumped Chapman instead. Oops. Oh well. We'll set maybe a new max on Matt Chapman, which is fine because I think Matt Chapman is seriously undervalued. But I'm going to turn off Kirk here. I don't really want a 4-man Toronto stack if I don't need to. So yeah, I love the skill potential of Hunter Green, but I'm worried about that volume. And even if he doesn't have like a strict innings limit, maybe he'll pitch less frequently than, say, Logan Webb, who is an older pitcher, and there's no reason San Francisco is going to limit him as long as he is healthy. Yeah, I got to get my guys. Matt Chapman is definitely one of my guys. We share that first name bond. We're not related, right? I forget. Somewhere I saw that joke. Yeah, he's definitely one of my guys. All right, let's check in on, we're 6 picks away. Let's check in on what we've got going on the board. Let's see, J Kidd. He's got a couple outfielders. Took there's 4 infielders, so his infield's pretty set. His outfield's kind of set. Yeah, he takes another outfielder. Not surprised there. 2 pitchers. Kirk is only got 1 pitcher so far. Kind of a blend of other positions. Chester Copperpot here is going for the pitching early build. Kodai Senga P1 So that's actually interesting. I was just reading something today from yesterday that apparently there was maybe some question about his physical also with the Mets. I have a bunch of him so far because I thought he was a pretty good value, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to look more into that, see if there's any more details on that. Um, it sounded like it could be nothing, but definitely interesting. That's one of those things where you hear about a physical related to him or the Mets and you just kind of laugh. All right. Our pitcher is still here, and Logan Webb. We're going to grab him. And then we got, let's see. We'll see where we go from here. My cover boy, Gunnar Henderson, who I'm not in love with at this price because of his skill questions and his volume questions. We'll see. At least Brendan Tuma has him ranked here. All right, I don't know. What are we going to do here? This is where it feels nice to have 4 outfielders because we can kind of we can look at these pitchers and see if we get a value on a pitcher dropping, or maybe there's an infielder value that drops. It doesn't really look like it. Bassett goes. We've got 3 pitchers, 2 infielders, and 4 outfielders. All right, so we are going to continue to get our guys, and we are going to get some Max Muncy to go with Mookie. We'll have a little Toronto stack and a little Dodgers stack. And we like that because those teams score a lot of points, or should score a lot of points this year. And we like stacking them more than we like stacking, say, the Tigers. That is something that I kind of want to think about, because last year there was when you look at stacks that that scored well last year, there was one that was like basically undrafted, and that was the Arizona one, or you could get it really late, or even some of the Baltimore guys. So it'd be interesting to go this year and try and look through. I'm inordinately invested in the success of Nick Castellanos. Yeah. I don't think you're wrong. I think that there's definitely a huge, like, this is where we start applying the soft sciences that I said not to, but when you take a look at his year last year, he signed the contract with the Phillies, and he got to a point where he came out of a really great hitting environment to a pretty good hitting environment. He went from a terrible team to a good team, but he even said it at the beginning of the season that there wasn't a lot of time to prepare because from the lockout, he couldn't actually sign with the team as soon as he wanted, right? So he spent a lot of time, or he said that he felt rushed going into the season. He had to, the lockout ended. He had to get his team. He had to sign a contract. He had to get ready. So there's definitely some we're going to keep taking Dark Sheep's guys, and we're going to take Lance Lynn here, who improved, who pitched for a while last year coming off the injury, and he kind of sucked, and then definitely figured out how to work with stuff. So yeah, Nick Castellanos, he kind of got rushed into the season, and then he probably wasn't planning on playing as much outfield as he had to, with Bryce Harper having to DH with his elbow. So like, there's a ton of stuff that you can definitely make an argument that Castellanos wasn't in the right headspace, or the situation was not ideal for him coming to the new team. But I definitely think he's hit the ball hard. We've seen him be good, and there's no reason he can't get to some place to where he was closer, somewhere in between last year and the previous year. Yeah, see, the problem with the Philly stack is it's gotten a lot more expensive this year. You can't get Kyle Schwarber where you could last year. I don't even know what his ADP was last year, but it was not in the second round. And even Harper is, where's Harper going now? I don't even know, because I don't get him ever. He's even 60, and you're spending your, well, what round is that? Whatever round that is, right? You're spending your, this is my math skills going on here while I try to stream. You're spending your 5th round pick on a guy who we think he's going to be back in July or June, and we don't actually know. That seems like it's pretty expensive when you add in the other components. Okay, let's see. We got 13 seconds. This is just going to be a my guy sort of draft. We're going to take Jordan Montgomery, who I really love to really succeed in St. Louis for the type of pitcher he is, and the type of defense he's going to have, and the park and all that. I just think he's going to have an awesome season. Yeah, I know Castellanos is cheaper. All right, let's just put it in Philly here, right? Castellanos is 80, so that's not that much cheaper. Hoskins, right? You think he's undervalued, and I won't disagree with that, but if we pull up that draft board again, right? So Hoskins here in the 6th round, right? So if I look at my drafts and the flow of my drafts this year, 6th round is, I'm usually living in outfield and pitcher land right then. So I don't know. Counterpoint: who will play more games, Buxton, Eloy, Robert, or Harper? That's a great question. I can tell you who is, not going to be out for half the season for sure. And that's everyone but Harper, right? So, I love Bryce Harper. He's just unbelievable hitter, right? But he's going to be out half a season. These other guys have injuries, right? That's but they're not out yet, right? So I don't get a lot of Buxton or Robert because of their price. Eloy's cheaper out of those, so I usually end up with more Eloy. but that's that's where all the playing time is not created equal, right? These other guys are projected for IL stints, but we don't know when or how long or whatever. Harper, we know. And when he comes back, we don't know what he's going to be like. He's probably going to be great, but we don't know. So it's very hard to spend that cost on him. Where would I start to consider Harper? I took Harper in the first few drafts, and I don't know where that was. All right, what do we got? Sorry, I'll get back to that question in a second. We got 5, 3, 4. I'm gonna take Jorge Polanco here. Just gonna take more of my guys. Polanco is, he's one season. I can't spell. Jorge Polanco. He's, he had some injury stuff last year, but he's only a year from 1,500 point season. So he should have. He might even lead off with Luis Arias gone now. He's definitely in a good spot with that lineup. Yeah, this is definitely the way to do it. If you want to take Harper there, I think it's smart to build in some early outfield to make up for that time he's going to miss. Like, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just telling you why I'm not doing it. Do we definitely know how long Harper is out? No. But we know he's going to be out, right? It's not going to be magic that he comes back. That's not how surgery works. Yeah. I'm not telling you not to draft him. I'm telling you why I'm not. And I love the guy. Like, I'd be smashing him in the first round if he was healthy. Yeah, it would probably be like 10th round. I would want him. Let's see who goes in the 10th. Yeah, I think 10th round is usually, that's where this kind of tier drop off is for me. These guys that, I think we're on the clock. 1 second. All right, we'll take Jock Peterson as our 5th outfielder. No, yeah, I know that he DH'd with the torn UCL, but he did not DH with a repaired UCL. So no, we don't know when he's coming back, but we know he's going to miss time, and we know it's going to be a significant amount. We don't know about those other guys. We're guessing based on previous injury history, but they're not out yet. So yeah, is there anyone whose ADP you expect to jump significantly over the next couple of weeks? So we are hitting to the point of the off season where the trucks are starting to get loaded up for spring training. Twitter was alive today with pictures of semi trucks by baseball accounts, which is a weird thing to take pictures of, but they're starting to load up the equipment for spring training. We're gonna have a little whiskey here tonight. And we are a week and a half or so away from pitchers and catchers reporting for spring training. We're going to get a lot more information. We're going to get guys, eyeballs on guys. We're going to get so many best shape of their life tweets. And that's when we're going to start seeing people, or the field react to those things. So the beginning of spring training is just sort of, there's a bunch of workouts and stuff. And then once the games come, that's when we'll start seeing people jumping up and down. So a lot of guys that you want to be thinking about now. Oh, we're on the clock. Sorry. Where are we at here? 5:45. We're going to take a little San Francisco stack here. We're going to jump up Michael Conforto, and we're going to be done with outfielder with 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So we're going to turn off the outfield button and be done with 6 of them. So yeah, in spring, we're going to see guys. The biggest thing that we're going to want, or that everybody's going to be looking at, is playing time, which is going to be very weird. We'll get into that. Maybe we'll come back to that. But the guys you want to start looking out for are the guys that are coming off injury. Chris Sale is the perfect example. If he comes out and he's throwing heat, he's going to skyrocket up. So those are the sort of guys. Even a guy like Senga, that we don't really have any idea of how he's going to handle the MLB compared to Japan League. Once we get him and we see him and he's facing batters and he's looking good, he's not having a problem with the more slippery ball of the U.S., then he's going to be a guy that's going to jump up. So it's a lot of these guys that we have questions on, that once they answer that question, those are the guys that are going to be going up. Let's see who else. Even a guy like Buxton, who is he's got this huge per game ability to score points. Yeah, points per game. He's got a huge points per game chance. A guy like him, once people see him and see him playing, and he's feeling good, he's hitting home runs in spring, he's a guy that's he's not gonna shoot up, but he's got a depressed cost right now, because right now it's questions. We have all these questions on him. We know how good he can be, but as soon as we see him being good again, that's when we're like, oh, well, maybe this is the year. We're going to do that more often than we are even right now. So guys like that. Jack Flaherty, he just went. That's another great example of a guy who we have a ton of questions about from last season and the injuries that he had. Oh, sorry, we're on the clock. But take Nathan Eovaldi. There's another one. We kind of have a nice, safe pitching plan so far. We're going to take this risk in Nathan Eovaldi, who is coming off some injuries. And if he comes into spring and he's throwing heat and he's looking good, he's going to skyrocket up. I usually end up with 6 or 7 pitchers. This is probably I might add a 7th pitcher here as a flyer at the end. Maybe a young guy who's got some volume questions but could have a nice breakthrough. This is probably not one where I'm going to add a guy like Eduardo Rodriguez, someone who's going to pitch a lot of innings and maybe not be very good for those innings. So it's usually 6 or 7. Depends on what I'm feeling like. Sorry about that. Depends on what I'm feeling like in the last round. And sometimes it depends on what I did the last time. I might just want to be slightly different. So yeah, maybe hopefully that helped you, Matt, give you kind of an idea of people to look for, and sort of the situations. The questions that we have now and how they start to get answered are going to be the guys that move. What's my most common roster build? Oh, well, let's look at Spike Week. Let me open it up here. All right. So out of my 98 teams, is this going to show up? Find it. Hold on. Oh, come on. I'll be honest, this Spike Week tool is kind of buggy sometimes. For all tournaments. I don't know. I can't get it to load. Sorry. It's not loading right. But I would say that 776 or like a 767 is probably my most common. And then 677. Those are probably the majority of my lineups. All right, let's see. So now we're just going to fill in some infielders. Let's see. We got a fall on Yandy Diaz, who we are going to snap up here. Just signed an extension, like a 3-year extension. They want him. Like there was some question in my mind of how much Tampa Bay really was interested in him, but they just signed him to the extension. He's probably going to play a decent amount, so we'll take him at a nice value. I have a feeling he's going to fall more. Maybe not. We'll see if he comes out and hits. Maybe he's a guy who we have a question on his launch angle. He's always hit the ball hard right into the ground. So maybe he comes into spring and he's like, oh, look at me. I've been working on my launch angle. That's my Yandy Diaz impression. But yeah, he's the sort of guy that once you get that question answered, he could go up. But it's probably unlikely. We've had enough seasons now of seeing him who he is. But we're not paying for him a ton. The other thing I wanted to talk about with that question, actually, let's put it back up here. So the other thing that I pushed off for a second there was playing time. And once we see sort of lineups and stuff in spring and who's batting where, who's playing with the A team, usually in spring there's kind of like A days and B days where a lot of times the starters will start the game. The main season starters will start the game. All right, we're going to put Jose Miranda with Jorge Polanco for a little mini Twins correlation there. But continue that thought from before. We are also going to have the World Baseball Classic going on this spring. So there are going to be a lot of players missing from their normal spring teams. So we really need to be careful in how we look at the spring training games. We really need to be vigilant that we're not, if we see a guy starting with the other starters, we need to make sure that it's not because the normal person is off playing for the World Baseball Classic team. So we definitely need to think about that. And the playing time is going to be very interesting in spring to watch, but it might be inaccurate a bit. How does Sean Murphy fit in Atlanta? So if you look at Atlanta's roster, they have two holes in their lineup. They have a hole at shortstop and they have a hole at corner infielder, right? So we have this group of guys. For shortstop, I guess not a group of guys. It looks like they're going with Vaughn Grisham as the starting shortstop, and then he's a really unproven guy. So he'd probably be batting ninth or whatever. So there's that hole, and then there's the corner outfielder hole. So with that hole at corner outfield having to be filled with like there's Ozuna there. There's I'm blanking on all the players. Essentially, I think what it comes down to is Sean Murphy and is going to get some designated hitter time. So I definitely think there's going to be games where he doesn't catch, that he's going to be the DH, because they might be filling those guys that would normally be DHing into that corner outfield spot where they are going to be trying to find a guy to fit. Eddie Rosario, that was the other guy I was trying to think of. Like, they don't want to put Ozuna in the outfield, and maybe this gets solved because he just comes in and is flat like he has been, and they cut him or something. That would be the best thing for Sean Murphy, is if Ozuna goes away, which he should go away because he sucks as a person. And at baseball now, that's the nice part, is also at baseball now he has been bad. So I don't feel bad saying that he sucks. All right, we are going to draft my guy, a super secret guy it's not too secret. He's starting to make the rounds. We're going to add that fourth guy to no, just kidding. I'm going to talk too much, and I'm going to get Brian De La Cruz. What? I thought I added him time. Oh, well. Well, there's the guy. Somebody's welcome to snipe Miguel Vargas on me. Boy, I don't like Brian De La Cruz at all. And I didn't need an outfielder, but that's the danger. I think Murphy I assume this is talking about Murphy. Murphy will probably be like 5 or 6. Yes, CSV sheep. I don't know who you're talking about here. Probably Brian De La Cruz. I think Dave, once I hit maybe like 25 drafts or so in this contest, I'm going to put something more formal together on my exposure. So I kind of added something to this draft already at the beginning. I don't want to make it super long, but yeah, I'll definitely talk about this at another time. This is exactly what happened. Thanks, Chip. Somebody took Miguel Vargas, which is fine. I'm not angry. What if Brian De La Cruz is the guy you need? All right, so we're going to take... Fine. We're going to pretend like Gavin Lux is the guy you need from that Dodgers team. Maybe he finally shows up this year. Plus, he's a good Wisconsin boy, originally from Wisconsin. So we're gonna finish with him, and we are going to end up with a 677, which I had tried to be maybe a 776, but that happened. Yeah, Vargas is the type of cost that I want to spend on an unknown. He's at the end. He is on a good team. He without getting too deep into what I do like in a prospect is he shows it. He has good contact. He has a low striker out rate. So that usually translates better to the majors. Yes, that is the guy who I've been talking about, and he's been starting to make the rounds on the podcasts. Yeah, so when you go into your rankings here, we can answer that question for you, Dave. If you go into your rankings, you have this tab here. It's there on the phone too. If you're in the app, you can set your limits. And I definitely did have my limit set to 6 for infield. And that's how I ended up with Brian De La Cruz. Yeah. He's got some speed. He's got a little bit. He doesn't have a ton of power. He's not going to be flashy like Michael Harris was last year, but he also doesn't strike out at a 30% rate. Okay, let's see. Let's go back. I think it finished up. We will check out the draft board. We got our 6 pitchers. Pretty boring. Nothing really crazy there. We got our 7 infielders. We got kind of a sizable Dodgers stack, or I guess it's a 3-man Dodgers stack. A mini Minnesota. Got a little Toronto and a little San Francisco. Let's check out the draft board and wrap this up here. All right, so what do we got? Let's see who's missing. Angus Frankfurter here started with his first pitcher as Hunter Green in the 9th. And then went with a 8-pitcher type of build. Okay, yeah, definitely this guy, this person, Angus Frankfurter, drafted Edwin Diaz, and this is a big no-no. So closers just don't score enough points. Even the awesome season that Edwin Diaz has, it was only 500 some underdog points. So if you are new, definitely realize that it's there's really no reason to draft a closer. Any crazy last picks? Michael Brantley is sitting here in the last round. That's not crazy, but we did get a Trevor Story was drafted. Mike Soroka is an interesting guy who's coming off of injury. A couple of injuries. Yeah, I think that's where we'll call it. So thank you everyone for showing up. Thanks for sitting through my little slideshow at the beginning. James has got some Matthew Liberatore in the bullpen. That's interesting. Yeah, thanks for showing up. Thanks for hanging out. Really appreciate that we get some people in here and we're chatting and having fun and growing the Underdog game. So everyone have a good night, have a good weekend and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week.